Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be going through my top transfer targets ahead of Game Week 34. Whether you're on your free hit, using transfers, or potentially activating your wildcard, hopefully this video should be helping you. If you're enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump to today's video. So due to the announcement that Chelsea and Manchester United have a double game week in Game Week 34, we will be focusing on Chelsea players in this video. I don't think Manchester United are a bad option, but it's not the best double in the world for them. And also, I think either if you didn't own them already from 33, you've probably missed the boat slightly because you would have got a double-double. Now it's just obviously not a very good double. And then from 35 onwards, their fixtures aren't fantastic. They, of course, blank in 37. So I think as a result, your transfer should probably prioritise on Chelsea players this week. So we're going to look at 4 Chelsea players in this video. The first comparison is between £5.5 million Marcus Alonso and £6.3 million Reece James. I know for a lot of people, both of these have been trolls across this season, maybe in the past seasons for Alonso as well. But I think they both are really, really good options, and I think we should be considering them. The thing to consider, I guess, for people on wildcard or just using their transfers is you've got £0.8 million difference between the two. Is it worth paying the extra for Reece James? Can you go cheap with Alonso? Should you maybe go for the double up? So like I said, they've got the double this week against Manchester United and West Ham. So then Everton in 35, which is a really nice fixture, a really good double against Wolves and Leeds. And they finished the season with Leicester and Watford. If they weren't rotation risks, I'd be paying £9-10 million for each of these two. They've got really good underlying data, which we're going to look at. Some of the best fixtures you could possibly hope for to end the season. The issue is that Chelsea do rotate their players a lot. They're, of course, going to be now focused on the FA Cup, so that might lead to some rotation in the second game of Game Week 36 against Leeds. We might see some rotation as a result of the FA Cup. And just outside of that, they probably look like they've locked down third is the issue that we've got with Chelsea. So we might see a little bit of rotation as a result, like I said, specifically in Game Week 36, which would be slightly frustrating considering that is the double that you'd really want them for. If we're looking at the two of them, of course, when they switch to a back five, these two are both more nailed and more appealing. They have tried the back four a few times this season. It just doesn't tend to work. So I think they're going to stick with the back five, and therefore I think they would arguably be as nailed as each other. I would say that Reece James probably has more competition on the right with Azpilicueta, but he's the better fullback, and he can also slot in at right centre-back. The fact that he can slot in at right centre-back, though, is a bit of an issue at the moment. So in 2 of the most recent games for them, against Real Madrid, against Vinicius Jr., and against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup semi-final, Reece James has actually played at right centre-back with Azpilicueta at right wing-back. I do expect Reece James to continue to start at right wing-back majoritarily, but it does show that in a big game, or if they have got a tricky fast forward on the left, as they did with Zaha and Vinicius Jr., it could be that we see Reece James switch in to just help cover Azpilicueta, resulting in a slightly more defensive performance. All of that being said, I think they'll both play the majority of the minutes, and I think they'll play the majority of the minutes at wing-back. Projected points over the next 6 games, for the final 5 game weeks, I should say, for the two of them. Marcus Alonso is actually projected to get more points than Reece James. Now, I'm not sure, I didn't look into the details of this, whether it's due to expected minutes or due to underlying data. I would assume due to expected minutes, which again shows you that at least the fix algorithm does project that Alonso's going to get slightly more minutes than Reece James over the final 5 weeks. However, Reece James does have the better underlying statistics. So as you can see here, expected FPL points per 90, Reece James is at 7.94, which is looking at basically a clean sheet plus 2 bonus expected every single 90 minutes that he plays, which is remarkably good for a defender. 5.13 for Alonso is not bad, but if you consider that's almost 3 points less than Reece James, that is a bit of a substantial difference. Across the next 5, that would be about 15 points. Non-penalty expected goal involvement, Reece James is at 0.42. We're going to look at some midfielders in a minute, of which Reece James is either very close or better than at 0.42. So he's got the opportunity for a clean sheet, he gets more points for a goal, and he's putting up these sort of numbers. He is an absolutely incredible asset when he does play. Whereas Marcus Alonso is still very good at 0.28. That's very comparable to both Cancelo and Robertson. So if you're looking at what sort of numbers, Reece James is up there with Trent. And I would say Reece James and Trent are absolutely clear of the rest. And then a little bit lower, you've got the likes of, like I said, Alonso, Cancelo, and Robertson down there. Big chances per 90. Neither of them are getting a massive amount, but Reece James is getting double the amount of big chances of Marcus Alonso. And then touches in the box, they're both getting around 3 touches in the box per 90. So what I would say is I think these are both fantastic options. And I do think Marcus Alonso deserves a little bit more attention over the back end of the season. I'm not saying he's going to start every game, and I do apologise if all of a sudden we start to see him rotate a little bit more, but he's actually been performing all right on that left-hand side, linking up quite well with Kai Havertz. So, not with Kai Havertz, I should say, with Werner on the left-hand side. So I think they'll continue to start Werner and Alonso on that left, and I think he could be a decent option, but if you can afford to go for Reece James, I think it's still got to be him. So let me know down below, are you considering either of those? If you're on your wildcard, have you considered a double up with Alonso and Reece James? Or maybe you're going with 2 Chelsea midfielders or with Rudiger as a safer option? Speaking of Chelsea midfielders, let's look at the next comparison. So we've spoken about the fixtures, still got 2 Chelsea players here. Now we're looking at Mason Mount versus Kai Havertz. It should be noted that I think Werner's a fantastic option, but we're going to focus on the midfielders today. But if you haven't considered Werner, you could look to potentially go there. The issue with Werner is that Pulisic is a really direct threat for him on that left, and I do always feel like Werner's maybe 1 or 2 performances away from being dropped. So I think I would probably prioritise Mason Mount and Havertz, but if you want to go for Werner, I do think he's actually a pretty good option over the next 5 game weeks. Projected points between Mason Mount and Kai Havertz. Fantasy Football Fix algorithm actually prefers Kai Havertz with 36.8 points to Mason Mount's 31 points over the next 5. So close, but Havertz is definitely edging it. But of course, he is £0.3 million more expensive. Expected FPL points across the season. Mason Mount's coming out on top at 7.1, which again is very, very good, pushing what we saw with Reece James there. Kai Havertz is at 5.81. So again, Mason Mount coming out slightly on top there, but not too much of a difference between the two of them. Non-penalty expected goal involvement, 0.52 for Mason Mount is pretty good. It is slightly better than Kai Havertz's 0.45. If we go back to Reece James's 0.42, it just shows you how good Reece James is. He's cheaper, he's a defender, so he gets more goals, and he gets the clean sheet points as well. So it probably suggests that if you haven't got any of these, you should probably prioritise Reece James. But it's not too bad. 0.45 and 0.52 is not too bad. You'd probably expect slightly better for around £8 million for each of these, but I wouldn't turn my nose up at that. 0.44 big chances per 90 for Mount. Where Havertz comes into his own is 0.81 big chances per 90. So Havertz is getting almost double the amount of big chances as Mason Mount, almost a big chance every 90 minutes. And he's also getting significantly more touch in the box. 4.98 for Mason Mount, 6.31 for Kai Havertz. So across the season, combining all of that, I'd say they're fairly similar. I'd probably just about prefer Mason Mount because his non-penalty expected goal involvement is slightly better, and he's also on corners and some free kicks. So I think he's got more routes to points. Over the last 5 game weeks, however, Kai Havertz's underlying data has shot up massively. So he's actually looking at a 0.78 non-penalty expected goal involvement. Mason Mount's has gone up to 0.61. But I would say that more recently, Kai Havertz is passing the eye test, and his data is actually better than Mason Mount's. I would probably say that it's a 50-50 shout, which I don't like saying on these videos. I like to try and give you my advice, but I would genuinely say this is a 50-50. Whichever one you fancy, by looking at the statistics or by watching the games, whichever one you think is going to perform better over the back end of the season, their underlying data isn't too different. I think that Mason Mount's got more routes to points, like I said, with corners, free kicks, slightly higher expected assist across the season and recently as well. Whereas I think Kai Havertz, due to the position that he's playing for Chelsea and due to his eye for goal, I think he's a slightly higher goal threat, as you can see with the big chances touching the box, etc. So I started wildcard tinkering with Mount as my favourite option. I've then switched to Kai Havertz, and I've come to the conclusion that whether it would be with my transfers or my wildcard, I think both of these are good options, and I'd probably want the double up. Let me know down below. Alonso, James, Mount, Havertz. Which of those 4 are you looking at? Are you looking at potentially getting 2 or 3 in your wildcard? If so, which combination? Or are you going a little bit rogue with the likes of Timo Werner potentially? So the final 2 players we're considering here today are actually 2 more mid-price midfielders that I think definitely deserve our attention and could be either alternatives or additions to Mason Mount and Kai Havertz if you're on your wildcard or just using your free transfers. And that is Philippe Coutinho and Phil Foden. The 2 Phils, obviously different Phils, but 2 Phils. The reason I think Coutinho could be a really good option, he's been showing good underlying data, which we'll look at in a second, across the entire season, and really good fixtures. Apart from game week 38, I love it. Leicester and Norwich as 2 single game weeks over the next 2, really good. He's then got back-to-back doubles in 36 and 37. And I would argue, and also if you look at some of the different projections for Fantasy Football Fix in game week 37, Coutinho could potentially be the best double game week captain in game week 37. So I think he definitely deserves attention. On wildcard in particular, I would definitely consider going for him. I understand if you've only got 3 transfers, maybe you want to prioritise Havertz and Mount. But I think Coutinho could be a really, really good option that will go under the radar over the coming weeks, just because there are so many other good midfielders. Kulusevski, Saka, Salah, KDB, Son, Havertz, Mount, all of these different options, Gordon, KDH, Maddison. There are so many good midfielders that I think potentially Coutinho could go under the radar slightly. And then Phil Foden, obviously slightly more expensive than Coutinho, but equally good fixtures. Watford, Leeds, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa. Of course, at the time of recording this Wolves fixture, we still don't know where that's going. So that Wolves fixture, if you're wondering, it's either going to go into game week 36 or game week 37. So City are going to have another double game week in either 36 or 37. For me, because I'm bench boosting in 36 and I'm wildcarding now, I'd quite like that to go into 36. But Ben Crellin over on Twitter is predicting that it probably is more likely to go into game week 37. But we'll wait and see. They do have another double game week to come. When we look at expected sort of data over the season thus far, projected points over the next 6 game weeks, Phil Coutinho is actually projected to get 1.4 more points than Phil Foden. So you might be wondering why I've put that in green. I've put an asterisk next to it as well. That's because, of course, we don't have the projected points for the Wolves game because it's not been rescheduled. As soon as that Wolves game goes into either 36 or 37, Foden's projected points over the next 5 would actually be higher than Coutinho's. So slightly more projected points for Phil Foden. Expected FPL points across the season, Coutinho's just about coming out on top at 6.15 to Phil Foden's 5.5. But the rest of the underlying data, Foden does come out on top. So a 0.53 expected goal involvement per 90 for Coutinho is actually better than both Mount and Havertz across the season. So Coutinho's still, like I said, played 922 minutes now, which is pretty substantial and showing really good underlying data. But Phil Foden is the best of the players we've looked at today at 0.61. So if you think Foden is going to continue to start for City in the league, which I think he will because they need to win every single game pretty much because Liverpool will continue to apply the pressure, I actually think that Phil Foden is probably a very, very good option as a result. Big chances per 90. 0.29 big chances per 90 for Coutinho, which is around basically one big chance every 3 or 4 games for Coutinho, which is okay, but not fantastic. 0.51 big chances for Foden per 90, which is a big chance every 2 games. So again, Phil Foden getting slightly more clear-cut opportunities, high XG opportunities as well. And then touches in the box, 3.22 for Coutinho, 5.81 for Foden. So once again, Coutinho more on the edge of the box. We know this. If you've watched football a lot, it's where he used to occupy the spaces for both Liverpool and Barcelona. It's what he does for Aston Villa. He likes to play on the edge of the box, whereas Phil Foden gets into the box a little bit more, almost 6 touches in the box per 90. So I still think I like Coutinho more out of the 2. The reason for that is he's cheaper, similar-ish underlying data, better fixtures over the next 2 when you consider the fact that he's nailed on to start both. Doubles in both 36 and 37. Coutinho's been in a lot of my wildcard drafts, but I also think Phil Foden deserves some consideration. The issue that you've got is either you want to go for Salah and Son, or even just one of those, and some other good options. You probably can't get Foden, Coutinho, Mount, and Havertz. So you need to start making some decisions. Like I said, you've also got Maddison, Kulusevski, Saka too. There are so many good options in midfield. I'd be very interested, if you're still watching this, let me know what your midfield 5 currently looks like. Whether you're on your wildcard or using your free transfers, what's your midfield 5 likely to look at, like from game week 34 onwards? Because I think that's going to be one of the key decisions that we've got for the back end of the season. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 34 top transfer targets video. Those are the 6 players that I would be considering: Alonso, James, Mount, Havertz, Coutinho, and Foden. There are some other really good options. There are so many good options for the back end of the season. Like I said, I actually think Werner could be a cheeky option. Let me know down below if you are considering him. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like any of the features that we use in these videos, such as the player touch maps, the fixture analyzer, the underlying statistics, whatever it may be, projected points, you can get all of this stuff, all of the stuff that I used for today's video over at fantasyfootballfix.com. A lot of it for free as well. So go sign up for free, get involved with the site, see how you like it. Lots of exciting features to come next season, which we're already working on. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. Cheers. Bye.